This is a really interesting story in the sense that, here in the Carolinas, this will hit close to home, although, in general, aviation safety is something that folks, across the nation are concerned about and thinking about. We've got some new legislation that's just been introduced here. There was an announcement discussing what's called this ROTOR Act. And so what we're seeing here, Senator Ted Budd from North Carolina joining Ted Cruz and other folks today, including the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, to talk about this legislation introduced specifically related to that mid-air collision that happened in D.C. earlier this year, happened back in January. And you'll remember that the flight crew on that plane was a Charlotte-based flight crew. We actually hear from the family members of the pilot, Sam Lilly. His mother and father spoke at the announcement of this ROTOR Act. Once again, ROTOR, this is an acronym, but stands for Rotorcraft Operations Transparency and Oversight Reform Act, and it's meant to address ongoing concerns in aviation safety in the national capital region and around the country. Let's take a listen.
Again, thank you for your strength and courage to stand up and fight in the face of truly horrific loss. I now turn to Tim and Sherry Lilly, the parents of Sam Lilly, the first officer of Flight 52, for their words. Tim and Sherry.
Today marks 6 months from the most tragic event in our family's history. What we're doing here today is we're going to try to make sure that no other families have this tragic event happen. I want to especially thank Secretary Duffy, because when we met with him, he took our concerns, he took them to heart, he went to running with it. He showed compassion for not just our family, but for the entire traveling public. And so we're going to stick with him and see this thing through. We're going to modernize the air traffic control system. We're going to get all the air traffic controllers back on the job. And then I really want to thank Chairwoman Harmony. She has led the NTSB in one of the most difficult processes that's happened in years, and she's kept us informed. She's given us every opportunity to have a voice, and we just really appreciate that. From the day that we met with Chairman Cruz, he really set in motion that this is not going to be Sam's legacy to die in vain. 67 really great people lost their lives that night, and there's no reason for that. What we have here is legislation, if it's passed, is going to close some very important safety loopholes so that this never has to happen again.
Thank you so much, Chairman, for asking us to be here today and to take action out of our grief to avoid this type of tragedy from ever happening again. Both Chairman Cruz and Ranking Member Cantwell have been so compassionate and demonstrated such empathy for our families. We greatly appreciate the leadership that they have both demonstrated on this topic of aviation safety, not just for our families, but as Tim said, for the flying public, for everyone, whoever sets foot on a plane and flies in our national airspace. In addition, we're very, very thankful for the senators who came together with Chairman Cruz to sponsor the ROTOR Act. We appreciate Senator Moran, Marshall, Schmidt, Blackburn, Budd, and Sheehy for their very demonstrated leadership also on this topic. This is a very personal matter for all of us, but we hope that by being here and sharing our story, you all buy into this also, and that you do support the efforts of the Secretary at the Department of Transportation, that you advocate for that additional funding that we need to update the air traffic control systems and all of the systems that control our national airspace. Thank you so much, everyone.
Sherry, Tim, thank you for your strong leadership at a time of great grief and pain. Thank you for using that grief to try to protect the flying public, try to protect every one of us. I know every time now that I land at Reagan, including yesterday just getting here, I suspect I'm not the only one who looks out the window and thinks about what could happen, and we're acting today to protect the flying public going forward. I now want to introduce National Transportation Safety Board Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy to discuss her investigation and her efforts to identify the operational breakdowns and safety gaps in the airspace.
Well, as you heard, today marks 6 months to the day since 67 people died in a mid-air collision over the Potomac River near Ronald Reagan National Airport. That's 67 mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children, friends, as well as 3 highly respected soldiers who dedicated their lives to defending our nation. I do want to thank Chairman Cruz, Chairman Moran, Secretary Duffy, certainly the administrator, and the families for your tireless and selfless work to improve aviation safety since this tragedy occurred. Tomorrow, the NTSB will meet in public.
Folks, we're going to come back